Welcome to episode 56 of the Positive on Publishing podcast. This podcast aims to inspire you with information to allow you to pursue your creative life with a smile on your face. I'm your host, Catherine Kemp-Gaillet. Learn more about my work at makeeverythingfun.com. My guest today is Ashley Crouch. Ashley Crouch is an award-winning visibility strategist who lands her clients in the most coveted outlets in the country. Ashley is the founder of Appleseed Communications. Ashley's writing appears in Forbes, The New York Times, Business Insider, Fast Company, Huffington Post, and many more outlets. She has trained over 2,000 people worldwide on visibility and publicity strategy. She is an international speaker on leadership, publicity strategy, and entrepreneurship. She has presented to audiences at Princeton University, University of Texas at Austin, that's where I got my MBA, Altitude Summit, WeWork, DocuSign, She Works, United Healthcare, and Lady Project National Summit. She is the author of the #1 international best-selling book, Unknown to Unforgettable: How to Stop Playing Small, Land National Media Attention, and Position Yourself as a Power Player. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Catherine, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
And Ashley and I actually know each other in person, so it's so fun when this digital world allows these personal connections. Sometimes the digital connection comes first, but in the case of Ashley, I was sitting at a beautiful mastermind session, sitting next to this beautiful woman who, when she spoke, just had the most incredible ideas. And that is how we first met. That was last fall. And at that time, you did not have a podcast. You did not have a book. You had an incredible business, but you are just such an example of how to get in action and get stuff done. So kudos for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Well, this is the year of quantum leaps, and it's you were such a light at that event. So I'm thrilled for our conversation today and where we're going to go with this.
And you're going to be a light, I know, to my audience, because there are so many authors out there that have these great messages, that have ways to help people, and they want to shout out their message to the world. And you and I also know Melinda Whitstock. Folks, you can listen to Melinda's podcast. That's the Wings podcast, Melinda Whitstock. And Ashley was on there, and they had some conversations about how noisy this marketplace is and how can we get over the din of all the noise. And Ashley had some great strategies on that podcast, but we're going to get into some specific publicity strategies for those of you that maybe have tried a lot of things. Like maybe you've reached out to your local TV station and to many radio stations and maybe some small podcasts. Does this start to sound like any of the listeners out there? Have you been trying and are you starting to get frustrated? You know, one of the things that when people say, Catherine, how do you help people? Is I help people get out of the struggle. Like the person that feels like the hamster on the wheel, working really hard. I don't like the word hustle. You're hustle, but you're getting nowhere. So Ashley, when it comes to rising over the din, how can we help that listening author to get off of that hamster wheel, doing all that stuff, and maybe describe more? What is the hamster wheel of publicity that gets us nowhere?
Oh my gosh. Well, my heart breaks when I hear this because it's so common. And for anyone listening to this, if you are in that place, just breathe easy because we can turn the ship around and get you back on the right track. And here's how. First of all, everything that you've been taught is probably wrong. So that explains why you feel so frustrated and so confused. And PR and the publicity industry often gets a bad rap. That it's this necessary evil. It's a little bit unmeasurable, not sure how you get the ROI out of it. And it's something that you know you need, but you don't know how or why and when. So what I tell people is this. First of all, you've probably heard the common training method, which is if you want to get publicity, you need to start at the bottom, work your way up, get some practice in and some small podcasts, small blogs, maybe your cousin's website, and start to develop your story. And from there, in a few weeks or a few months, eventually you start guest posting, and then you start working your way up. And at some unknown time, very far in the distance, you start to land national or TV placements. And what I tell people is the exact opposite. That, in fact, what I teach is the inverse. You need to start at the top, and it triggers the domino effect. So if you are a busy entrepreneur or a thought leader or a CEO or an industry expert, and you have a book, and this is your big moment, it means you're probably wearing 5 different hats. So why are you spending the same amount of precious time pitching and placing yourself in small outlets that don't move the needle for you, when you could spend the same amount of time and energy pitching to national media outlets? And what happens is all the other smaller outlets will get in line to feature you because they want to be seen as relevant and successful outlets, right? So that gives you twice the impact in half the time, which is a message of hope for anyone.
So you're saying, Ashley, that we should, the common publicity tactic that we're taught, which is, sort of like the pyramid, building the base of small, guest blog posts and smaller podcasts, and just sort of tons and tons of volume at a small level, so that you get to the very top of the pyramid, which is the Today Show and Oprah and so on. You're saying, try to flip it, right? Because actually what that does is it changes completely how you appear as you walk through that room. And I'm just, making this up as sort of a mind's eye view, but I think about it as like, let's just take female listeners right now. So do you want to be that, chic woman that walks in confident into that room and catches everyone's attention, and everybody wants to come over and talk to you? Mm-hmm. Okay. We want to be that person. Mm-hmm. Or do we want to be the person that's sort of like rushed and sweaty and discombobulated and has little flyers and keeps going up to everybody and tap, 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 tap. Can you please listen to my message? Yeah. And then everybody starts to just kind of go, ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I hope that wasn't like too graphic of a mind's eye image, but like, I really want the listeners to get the point that you do not want to be that second person, that pest that keeps blasting out, press releases and things like that people are just going to like recycle or delete. So can we talk a little bit about the approach? Because I think you're right. People are taught, you do the press release, you have a press kit. So let's just knock down that model.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So first of all, I'm going to teach a lot of content today, but it's important to set the context. And we need to get really clear on what the point of all of this is. So segueing perfectly from what you just shared, Catherine, the 3 reasons to land national media attention is, number 1, exposure. That's a no-brainer. It allows you to access volumes of people you would not otherwise reach. So exposure is what we often think of. But the number 2 reason is credibility. And that's where you start to see the differentiation of you as a preeminent thought leader, which allows you to charge exponentially more, shorten your sales cycle to sell more, and also position your role models as your peers. Just imagine the doors that will open for you when you could pitch anyone in your dream list and they say, wow, this is a credible expert. Yes, I would love to be affiliated with you. That's the second reason. The third reason is positioning. And this is related and different because in the world we live in today, there's never been more noise, and there is no industry that is not saturated. Every industry is saturated today. So whether you are a health practitioner or a financial expert or a social media manager, there are a million of you, and it's only going to continue. What this means is that you need to find a way to leverage social proof so that when people go to your website, they see this as seen in bar that says as featured in, O Magazine, Good Morning America, Forbes, Well and Good, Mind, Body, Green. And what that means is, okay, like it or not, in the world we live in today, those national media outlets still contain a lot of weight in the way that social groups perceive them. So the positioning allows you to bypass the clog right away and rocket to the top. So those are the top three reasons that the exposure, the credibility, and the positioning piece. What this means for you is kind of two or three things. People ask me all the time, okay, what's the ROI? That's great, Ashley. I'd love to be in Forbes, but really, what's the ROI? Can't I just run $10,000 or $100,000 worth of Facebook ads every month and get volumes of traffic to my website to convert to clients and customers? And what I say is this: today, we are experiencing unprecedented acceleration and turnover in terms of, all right, you're doing a business now, but in 3 years, you might want to sell that company and then do something else. Or tech platforms may emerge and you need to be positioned as an expert. The role that national media plays is making a deposit into your personal brand bank account. So that as you move through the growth of your business or transition or want to land investor funding, you have the weight of these media outlets behind you that follow you wherever you go. And what you have just created for yourself is an ATM machine. So it doesn't matter if you're releasing a book or you are scaling a company or you are pitching at an investor festival or you want to have an acquisition. You yourself have a personal brand that is premier. That's really, really important. Now, the good news is that it's never been easier to raise national media attention because press releases don't work anymore. Now you have a decentralized number of social media platforms that allow you to reach out to contributors who write for 5 to 10 different outlets at a time, increasing your chances that you could get featured in any of those outlets. And they're all listed right there for you. We talk about that in a little bit, like how to do that. But it's never been easier, so that, it's short. Number one, you could run $10,000 worth of Facebook ads or $100,000 worth of Facebook ads to a website. But if you don't have those media features there, you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table and you're losing sales due to lack of brand trust. Number two, you're putting deposits into your personal brand bank account. So then your personal brand acts as an ATM machine for you to impress investors and customers in your current company or any in the future. And it just goes on and on from there. So is that making sense, Catherine?
Yes. And actually what I like to do for listeners is pull some fun nuggets that they can take as actionable items. So I've got a couple here, and then I want to get into the how.
Okay.
But first, that first fun nugget is knowing your why you're doing this whole publicity, sort of a la Simon Sinek. You mentioned exposure and expertise, the authority building and positioning, and that's just really key as nugget number one is knowing your why. Nugget number two is that ROI is not always measured in these hard dollars and cents in the world of publicity. I think that's really important. That it was almost like you were saying, with all this disruption in this industry, the economy is moving more towards like free agents as opposed to like the old school model of like, the 30 years and the pension and the gold watch, right? Yeah. So as free agents, we actually need to invest in our personal brand. And I think it's important to outline that. That's my fun nugget number two. Mm-hmm. And that number three is that publicity has never been easier to get because of this decentralized model. Mm-hmm. So maybe we could kind of launch off from there. And then I think you mentioned that it's decentralized because you could have one person covering multiple outlets. So that's one factor of decentralization. Mm-hmm. But then how do we reach those? And then once we find out who they are, a few sort of, you mentioned teaching action items on what do I do from there? I know this person. I don't want to be that pestering, handing out flyers person at the party that no one wants to talk to. Mm-hmm. I want to be this glamorous author. So how do we do that?
Amazing. And that feels so good, right? I get so excited. So anyone listening to this is an author, I'm assuming. And between about 60 to 90 days before the launch, you want to start to create your media launch plan. So write that down, 60 to 90 days in advance of the launch. Start creating your media launch plan. And the first thing you want to do is to create your dream list of outlets. Now, let me offer context for this. How are you supposed to know? Okay, what's my dream list? I don't know. I think Today Show, people often say, I want to be on the Today Show. Before you make your dream list, understand this. What people will often tell you is the best thing may not be the best thing for your goals. Okay? You might not need to be on hundreds of outlets or hundreds of podcasts. You might need 3 to 5. Depends on the goals. So I have a signature system. It's 5 steps. It's called expert statement, empathy, starting with empathy, empathic expression. So how are you telling that story? Exposure, and elevation, which is how do you leverage that feature to move forward. And in order to talk about this, we need to start with empathy. Okay, there's a common practice right now where a lot of publicity agencies or PR agencies will say, well, you should be everywhere and you should spray and pray yourself to every outlet. And this is how you're going to become famous. I say instead, start with an empathy first approach. Really think about who is your target customer that you're writing to in your book. Okay? And as you start to think about that, get into the psychographic characteristics of what they're worried about and struggling with in their day-to-day life. And at this point, you will start to come up with a list of, oh my gosh, this is what they're stressed about. When the alarm goes off in the morning and they're dreading getting up and they just want to snooze 2 or 3 times, it's because of this reason. And as you build the pain list, you start to create story angles that solve the problem that they have. Okay? So one of the new rules of PR is to start with empathy, and I've created an archetype approach. So instead of spraying and praying yourself everywhere and, just saying, hey, I have a new book out, go into your book and go through the chapters. In your book, do you have any particular chapters that really solve the pain point for your target customer? And as you go through there, you're going to underline or doggy ear those particular ones. So if we were working together, this is something I always do with my clients, read through the whole book, underline, and really create these story archetypes. There are 2 story archetypes I want to tell you right now because they are so, so powerful. And if you use them, I say 60% of the time it works every time, just in the sense of media will say yes at the highest level. Number 1, if you are an expert with a book, this means you have volumes of wisdom to teach. So the number 1 archetype for you is practical and actionable. Practical and actionable is how you make a promise and your interview topic that you either write a post about or get interviewed about is teaching something of value. Practical and actionable is, I'm going to give you some solutions. And what you're looking for with this practical and actionable is to actually create the headline, okay? Actually create the headline that you want to appear in your target outlet. Okay? So is that making sense so far, Catherine?
Yeah, and I have to summarize if I can with a couple more fun nuggets.
Okay,
really
good.
Want to drive home when we started getting into the how.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everyone realizes that the how requires some advanced planning. Okay.
Yep.
So just want to highlight that. Don't publish your book and then think about publicity. Okay. So that's nugget number 4. Nugget number 5, I have to repeat it because it was so funny. The don't spray and pray. Like that is great. Be more conscious about your target. And then what you're talking about right now, Ashley, I'm going to summarize, and I want you to continue with your archetypes, but I think what you're really getting to, this is nugget number 6. And man, you're just given us content. It's a lot of nuggets already. You have to ask, so what?
Yeah.
Right? Before you create that headline, you mentioned pain points. We all didn't write books because we wanted to like pat ourselves on the back. We want to help people with our books. Almost all authors. I haven't met a single author that doesn't write with a passion to help others. But you have to be able, in crafting your message, to be able to answer, so what? What does it mean to me? So continue with your archetypes. You were on practical and actionable.
Yeah.
Which you are.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So first of all, just to recap. So first of all, you're thinking through who your target customer is, who, you were writing for them in your book. And when you identify that person, you build your dream list from there. So what are they reading? Where are they going to find you? Is it a niche blog? I mean, maybe, but my guess is it's, they're probably reading Forbes, or they're probably, watching Dr. Oz, or, depending on your industry. Really think through where they are and build your dream list from there. And as a very important aside, all outlets are not created equal for authors. That's very important. All outlets are not created equal for authors. You may want to be on Dr. Oz, but in reality, it's not going to sell books. Okay, just so you know. In fact, the number one outlet for authors is podcasts. So you want to have the national features. You definitely want to start with the, Forbes, Fast Company, any of these top tier outlets. Trigger that domino effect, but then go for the podcast, because for an author, that is the highest conversion rate. You have a long time to talk about your book. And I teach this in my book, Unknown to Unforgettable. But the podcasts are amazing. So start, really put in a heavy dose with the podcast. So that's
woohoo! I love the plug for a podcast, because that's absolutely my experience too.
Yeah,
is the numbers go way up after great podcast appearances, and even more so than like the very coveted flyby. Like I've been on TV where they've done the flyby on my book, and everyone says, "Oh, that's the ultimate." Not as much as a podcast, a good podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll get more podcasts if you start with national, because more podcasts will want to feature you. Oh my gosh. So for example, in my experience, I'm working with a client right now. She just got featured. The first feature we got for her was Fast Company. And now, her book launches today, and she's getting all these podcasts because people say, wow, okay, she was in Fast Company, she's legit, and now we're getting all these podcasts for her book. So I train about this in my book, Unknown to Unforgettable. And as you're building your dream list, that's really important to keep in mind. So that's the dream list. Then you have the dream list. Then you create the story archetypes. The number one story archetype is that practical and actionable. This is so perfect for authors. You have so much wisdom to teach, and you craft it into a headline. Craft your story into a headline. People always tell me, oh, Ashley, tell a good story. When I was getting started, I had no idea what a good story was from a bad one. It's like, okay, so do I just tell people, hey, my book is out? Like, is that a good story? No, that is not a story. So the idea here is that when you create a practical and actionable story archetype and these headlines, you are delivering the opportunity to the media on a silver platter that allows them to say yes without inventing more work for them to do. So because, for example, I've written for Forbes and New York Times and Fast Company, I get pitched fairly frequently, and no one is doing this, guys. So if everyone pitches me some cool bio about some cool person, and frankly, I'm busy, I don't have time to think of the story of this person. I don't have time to go in and do an hour interview with someone I don't know what we're going to talk about. And the media gets 3,000 pitch emails a week. Like, raise your hand if you get a lot of emails. I know I do, but I don't get 3,000 a week. Just imagine 3,000 people want you to do something for them every week. I mean, are you feeling exhausted? Like, I'm already feeling exhausted by that. So again, empathy first approach for the media. Now you understand what they're going through. You're going to create an archetype, makes an easy yes or no, and more often than not, a yes. So Practical and actionable. The second one would be what I call the low to high arc. And it sounds so common sense, but common sense is not common practice. The low to high arc is the rags to riches tale. And if you are an author, my guess is you have one in your life. Either, you've overcome something, you are resilient in some way, you've helped so many people go from point A to point B. You have embedded within your book or your story this wonderful low to high arc. And again, craft the headline as you would like it to appear at the national media outlet at the highest level. When you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So let me give you an example. I was working with authors, and they're two women, Heather and Nora, and they co-authored this book, and they ran an artist company. They were creative artists, and they drew with markers for a living. And they would go into the top executive strategy meetings at Google, Deloitte, FedEx, Star Wars, Lego. They would go into these secret rooms for these top executive strategy meetings, and they would draw the notes of these private elite conversations. Now, based on this alone, they built a multi-million-dollar company in a matter of a few years. They had multiple offices. When they came to me, their book was launching, top 5 publishing house. They wanted additional publicity support, and I crafted this low to high arc. And it read like this. These two women built a multi-million-dollar company from a drawing on the back of a paper napkin. And using that angle, we got them on stages at the highest level, 11,000 people in the audience, top stages with royalty, keynotes, breakouts, as well as MSNBC, all these top outlets. So the low to high arc can work really well for you. And I hope this is getting your creative brain thinking about, how easy it can be if you just know the system.
And I think it was on Melinda's podcast where you talked about the other types of stories, the high to low. But for a fun nugget, I want to say that you need to harness the power of the subconscious in this whole publicity strategy, because what you're just talking about there with this, the low to high, which is, all of us as little kids watched Cinderella and we loved it and it was a good feeling and it's deep within our psyche, right? And so when we see that again, like you said, we see it, we can't forget it. It connects with us on a deep level. So that sounds like fun to me, because I love dealing with anything in the subconscious, but also just getting really creative about how your story can have some really deep hooks. Love it.
So those are that's the archetype approach, and what you want to do is package it. Okay, so people are probably thinking, okay, I'm taking notes, Ashley. I have some ideas here. Okay, practical and actionable. Okay, low to high arc. I'm starting to see how my dream list could work. Okay, but I don't know a soul. I don't know anyone. And I have to say, I've been there. You'll read in my book, Unknown to Unforgettable, like, I grew up on a farm in Arkansas with 100 chickens. I couldn't even see my neighbors. I didn't even know publicity was an industry. And, all I had was a big dream. I had no connections at all. So just know that if you're sitting in the Midwest somewhere, or, even a coastal metropolitan city, wherever you are in your journey, if you don't have a single media connection, you can cold pitch and get massive results if you package it into a pitch letter that works. Okay, so I just want people to breathe easy. Okay, just take a leap of faith with me right now.
And can I just interject there about the whole chickens thing? Because I when we lived in Chicago or the suburbs of Chicago, we had chickens. My kids got to grow up with chickens as well. It was so much fun. But in our pre-interview chat, you talked about your publicity strategies as being so effective because you didn't learn from, theory in the ivory tower. You learned from doing it, from, being in the New York environment at Verily, right? Which is a great concept for a magazine, using no photoshopping in pictures of women. I just think that's fabulous. As a teen mom, I mean, I have a teenage daughter, so I'm very sensitive to the way media portrays women. But anyway, so you say you didn't know. I think you have a lot of street smarts, Ashley. But you went out there, you applied those street smarts, grit, passion, and then what then became later your system. But you made sure that it worked first.
Yeah.
I mean, you got hundreds of placements for this magazine, which went on to get, 1 million views a month for this magazine. So you have this strategy because you've seen it work. I think it's really important to underline.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. And, anyone listening to this, like, I have been sitting in your shoes because I was at a startup, like, Catherine, you just mentioned. I was invited to be on the founding team for a fashion magazine in New York City, which, wow, sounds like, my dream come true coming from a farm in Arkansas. Talk about culture shock. But it was a dream come true. And, going to New York Fashion Week and, working with models and creative directing photo shoots and all this fun stuff. But look, we were struggling. Like, we were not getting traction. We're telling everybody, all our family, we're sending emails out, hey, please, read our magazine. That's where people start. And after a certain period of time, which, parentheses, 2 years, I told people, look, we need language to describe how we're different. And I self-nominated myself to run the PR campaign for the launch. And, I had no connections, and I just started writing pitch emails because I was so excited about this. And on my birthday, actually, a story broke in the Huffington Post, and it went viral around the world to 7 countries. We had 42,000 likes and shares. And the senior style editor told me it was the only cold pitch we have ever accepted. And because of that, I had a meeting, a personal meeting with Ariana Huffington's chief of staff and the senior style editor. And so, look, like, it was trial and error, guys, but, I figured out how to phrase and create a pitch letter that is short, to the point, no fluff, gets to what they value, and structures it in a way that helps them to see, what you're talking about. And they'll pay attention to it so much more than, sending a cool bio or a press release. In fact, I would say don't write a press release. It's a waste of time. So shall we talk about the basic structure of this pitch letter that works really well?
Yeah, and I want to just highlight that maybe that's mantra number 8, or that's fun nugget number 8, and that's that, it doesn't happen overnight. You do have to have that tenacity, that grit that Ashley just talked about herself. A lot of times I talk to authors that, they tell me, oh, Catherine, I'm exhausted. I've been doing this and been working so hard. And then I kind of get a sense of, oh, you've been at it for a month, or 3 months. Like, this is a long-term strategy. So my fun nugget is to keep at it using the energy that Ashley just mentioned, passion, right? Use passion and fun to keep your engine going. I do want to get to the pitch templates. And I also want to talk about how you work in a very different way with your people. I want to talk a little bit about finishing school, and I want to talk about your New York City mastermind. So what do you think about that for like a home stretch? So pitch templates, finishing school, New York City mastermind. Oh my gosh, what you're doing is so unique and different. But gotta cover those things.
Oh my gosh. Well, so much good stuff to talk about. Okay. So how about this? In the interest of time, I'll just give you guys a gift. So rather than talk to you about all the structure of a pitch letter, like you've been listening and tracking so far, I just want to give them to you. I have my top 5 pitch templates. They're proven to work for authors, thought leaders, speakers, people who want to have a column at a national publication, learn to write like I did for Forbes and New York Times and Fast Company, all these places. I'll just give them to your audience, Catherine. Normally there's a dollar value amount, but I would like to give those to you guys. So let's not even talk about that. You can just contact me, contact my team. We'll get those over to you. And make sure that anyone listening to this can copy paste these archetypes that we've been talking about into a pitch template. And using these alone, people have got results in less than 24 hours. So it's really, really powerful. So I'll just give those to you guys. Contact my team. You can reach out to hello@appleseedcommunications with an S .co. send us an email. We'll get those over to you. And then the other stuff to mention, okay, what else? Where are we going from here, Catherine? You're the boss.
I just want to tell you, that's so fun and generous. Thank you so much. hello@appleseedcommunications.co for these amazing templates. And I want to go into finishing school and make sure also to talk about that awesome mastermind that you've got planned in August in New York City.
Sure. Okay. Well, so if anyone's listening to this and feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so different from anything I've ever heard, it's much higher impact, I have a book coming out, or I have a book recently released, and I'm trying to raise visibility and position myself as a power player, what do I do next? I would invite you to join for a very elite exclusive mastermind I'm hosting in New York City. It's the first time ever. It's the third week in August. And literally for the first time ever, I've been doing this for almost a decade, I'm going to be opening my Rolodex of media. So, people ask me all the time for my media lists and contacts, and we never do that. We've never done that ever. But what I want to do is something really special. And I'm inviting 15 people, which some of those spots are taken, but 15 people will be in a room. We're going to be in a penthouse in Manhattan, beautiful view, lunch catered, wellness activation. For 2 days, we are going to be going through my 5-step signature system that I outlined earlier in our conversation. What I've talked about today is a lot around the empathic expression piece, which is that third step. But if you want to know how to package it from the foundation to completion, we're going to go through your expert statement, your empathy communication plan, your custom story archetypes. I'm going to work with you in your pitch letters. You will have direct access to me and media training. And we're going to do all of that in this beautiful, enriching space where you can embody and experience that power player reality that you want to have so you don't feel like you're in the clog anymore. And on the third day, we're going on a yacht. And we are going to be in this gorgeous space. I'm so excited about it. We're going to have a photo shoot, headshots with New York City in the background. Literally, your ship has come in because people are going to be seeing your photos saying, wait, why was I not on this yacht? It's this amazing experience. There will be media on the boat, very intimate, no more than 50 people. This is not a cattle car. This is a beautiful, enriching luxury experience where you get trained the highest level in the principles that are working right now. And then you get to go and meet my friends, Forbes, Fast Company. We have sent out the invites last week. Media will be on the boat, and that is the third piece. So if anyone is interested, please do apply. It's not for everyone. It is luxury. It is an investment. It's not for everyone, but if you are a quick start, all in on yourself, my book is out, this is go time, then definitely we'd love to talk with you.
Fantastic. And how do people learn more about that?
Yeah. So again, hello@appleseedcommunications.co. That's really the best. You get in touch with us. We have an assessment. We'll see if you're a fit. You get to tell us your hopes and dreams, and we're going to curate and customize a media list based on the people coming. So it is going to be a really high impact event for you. You could get everything done in 3 days, what normally takes, 3-6 months. So it's super exciting.
So all you busy authors, and it's not just for authors, right? This is for anyone that wants to raise their visibility in the media. Is that right?
Yeah, it's for anyone. Now, one of our specialties is authors. We do specialize. We do a lot of book launches. I have a client that's launching a book today. Just did a book launch for the former president of the Oprah Winfrey Network, and her book was bestseller before it even launched. And so we do a lot of book launches. So if you are an author listening to this, it's proven, it's repeatable, it's predictable. I've got you. And if you are wanting to be more of a thought leader, thinking about a book, but you already run a company and you're at that 6 figures or more mark, then this would be so perfect for you.
I love it. It sounds like so much fun. Okay. And we're almost out of time, but we didn't talk about finishing school. So can you just describe what it is and how people can learn more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I realize is that, not everyone can work with us with the services side, but what people want access to is this amazing mentorship and program that allows you to position yourself as a power player. So Finishing School is a new program I'm launching. It's for ambitious women that want a seat at the table and position themselves as a power player using national media. And what it is a 60-day program where we go through your expert statement, your offer positioning, your price, your media, your mindset, media training, and we have live coaches. So we go through each week live coaches where we hold you accountable. You get access to the highest level graphic designers, branding experts, stylists. It's gamified. Every week you have the potential to win up to $500 worth of value in the form of a stylist, in the form of all these free goodies, video shoots and things like that. And in 60 days, you come out on the other end a power player. And it's the first time ever. No one has ever created basically a machine. So I've taken basically 10 years, almost 10 years of my experience in how to go, from where I came from on a farm in Arkansas, to boom, national media, running a global company, having a best-selling book in 24 hours. All this stuff, it's what we're putting in the program. So Finishing School is rolling out just after the New York City Mastermind. So if that's of something of interest, definitely reach out to the team. Again, I keep saying it, but hello@applecommunications.co, and we'll see if that's a fit. Either way, we want to create a custom solution so you get to your goals.
I love it. You have something for everyone. You've got all these different offerings, and they're all so fun. They're all so positive. You're such a walking, wonderful, positive example of everything that you teach. So,
thank you.
So thank you. And I'm going to go with the title of this episode of Go From Unknown to Unforgettable with Ashley Crouch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.